Hi everyone, and welcome to another virtual coffee for Playing Concepts. My name is Joan Sintes. I'm one of the business development manager for Play Concepts Barcelona. And if everything is working fine, on the other side of the net will be my teammate Miguel. Miguel, how are you?
I'm great, Joan. How are you doing?
Well, I'm just taking a time to speak about manufacturing and just having a coffee with me. So I would like to spend some time with you talking about some business case that we have prepared on the manufacturing sector. And first of all, Miguel, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm a software developer in Plain Concepts, and I work in a team that is specialized in data projects. Also, I'd like to invite our audience to present themselves in the chat. I will be reading the chat during the presentation, and also if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and I will try to answer you whenever we can. So if you tell us what's your name, where is your city where you are living, and what's your position, or in what sector are you working, I'd love to know more about our audience.
Yeah, that's cool, Miguel. Let's try to make it more social, although everyone should be confident and close at home, but let's try to do it more social. So thank you again, and we will start. The idea is that we will be introducing concepts based on use cases that we have been working on. And as you guys know, one of the big troubles on manufacturing sector is the huge cost of the machinery. In order to do the training stuff, all the machines are very expensive, so it's not easy to have duplicates, and also to form someone, so you need to stop maybe the production line. So this is really a big deal. That's why we want to present you our first business case, that is on Airbus. Airbus, as you may know, is one of the world's leading aircraft manufacturers around the world. They have a challenge, a big challenge, that is to training the new employees. And it's a huge challenge because, as you may notice, it's not cheap to manufacture an airplane or an engine of the airplane. So they need something in order to improve the capacities for the new employees to get the knowledge that they need to work in Airbus. So they ask Plain Concepts in order to develop an application based on virtual reality. In that case, we made it on Oculus Rift device. In order to improve their training program. The huge improvement of this deployment was that when you use a device like Oculus Rift or also the HoloLens, actually we have the second version, your movement becomes natural because you have your hands free, so you can use your hands to manipulate everything and to try to do all the disassembles or the training that you have to do with this kind of trainings programs. So I don't know if you have a lot of knowledge about these technologies, but I want Miguel to explain all our audience what's the main difference between the virtual reality, the augmented reality, and also the mixed reality.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about it. Nowadays, we see a lot of headsets, these kind of devices that you put in your face and in your head to interact with these virtual worlds. But there is a lot of people talking about these concepts, right? Virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. But what is the difference between them? With virtual reality, it's very clear. In virtual reality, you are simulating the world completely. So all the information you are receiving comes from these computer-generated virtual worlds. For example, an example of this kind of headsets is the Oculus Rift, and they are very powerful because you can simulate everything. But on the other hand, it's also complex because you have to simulate everything, and it can be also difficult to move around when you are not seeing the reality, the place where you are physically, right? On the other hand, the other two concepts, augmented reality and mixed reality, they are quite similar. And in the real world, people use these words or these terms referring to the same things, and there is no clear difference between them. But from a technical point of view, and if we go to the theory, the difference between augmented reality and mixed reality is that in augmented reality, you get to see different than virtual reality. In both augmented and mixed, you are seeing the real world, your surroundings. So you have some glasses or some headset, and you can see the room where you are, or you can see the real world, but you get it enriched with some virtual objects or virtual information, computer generated. In the case of augmented reality, these virtual objects and this enrichment is not anchored on the real object. So the extra information you are getting does not interact with reality. You get this information as a layer on top of reality, with some information, but it doesn't get to interact with the physical reality. So an example of this, for instance, is Google Glasses. If you have tried them out, you can see information on top of reality, but nothing else. If you move around, the information moves with you and is not aware of the environment. On the other hand, mixed reality, in the case of mixed reality, these virtual objects are anchored in reality and interact and respond to the real world. So these virtual objects may collide with physical objects, they may hide behind physical objects, and you can move around, and they look, although they are computer generated, they look as if they were embedded into this physical reality. So this is like the next step maybe of augmented reality. And this you can find, for instance, in Microsoft HoloLens 2 that have been recently released. It's much more powerful than augmented, but again, I think in the common world, customers used to use these terms to refer to same concepts, But both of them are clearly different from virtual reality.
Yeah, that's cool. Probably we will have no mistake confusing the terms when people used to work with Microsoft HoloLens 2, because the improvement have been amazing, and that's a really huge improvement on working on this kind of devices with a new version of Microsoft. Whereas plain concept, we've got more than 9 of these devices, and nowadays we are working on real deployments that in a few months we will show you to our audience and to our customers. So go on, Miguel. One of the other topics that everybody is talking nowadays in manufacturing industry and in the whole sectors.
Hold on a minute,
Yeah.
Joan. We
Sure.
have a question from Quique Canton. He's asking what technology do we recommend for virtual reality and manufacturing? Well, with experience, in my experience, I have to say a disclaimer. My main expertise is in data projects, not so much in these virtual reality worlds. But from what I have seen and what I have heard from other colleagues talking about these technologies, the most powerful I have seen is the Microsoft HoloLens 2, the latest version that have been released like a month ago. And I think this gives you much better results by mixing these virtual worlds with the real world. I think the result is much more compelling and rich than the alternatives I have seen. But I'm interested in knowing also your opinion, Quique or anyone else in the audience. So if you have had any experience with virtual, augmented or mixed reality before, and particularly if you have used it for a productive way in your job or in your company, please let us know in the comments. We are very interested in your opinions and experiences as well.
Sure, and let me add that if you use HoloLens 2 and you also add Plain Concepts Wave Engine, that it's a 3D engine platform that we have developed, the combination it's amazing. So this is my answer. So to go on, I was telling that I think machine learning has become the new word for this year. Everyone is talking about, and we have some business cases in this sector, in manufacturing sector, that we have applied. But before go deeper on this business use case, I want you to introduce our audience what's exactly machine learning, how they can apply in a generic way for their systems, their data, for their day-to-day.
Yeah, let me talk a little bit about this. So I don't want to get in much depth about machine learning because it's a huge topic and we will be hours here talking about it. But on top of that, because I believe that soon there will be another session specifically about machine learning. So I will leave that for my colleagues who are more experienced on this. But what I wanted to highlight is that there is a lot of talk about machine learning, and we will see some of the projects that we have developed recently using machine learning technologies. But what I wanted to highlight is that the machine learning is so popular right now, in my opinion, not because we are reinventing the wheel, not because we have discovered machine learning now. Machine learning algorithms, most of them date 20 years ago, and there hasn't been a lot of breakthrough disrupting innovations in algorithm wise. I think that the most interesting thing in the machine learning landscape and why it is becoming such a hot topic nowadays is because of before machine learning was allowed only or was reserved for very few companies that had the computational power and the machines enough to make the most of it, to use this algorithm with big data and be able to actually put it to use. And nowadays, the big breakthrough, in my opinion, is that with the advent of cloud-based platforms of big data and machine learning, that they are pay as you go, they are as a service, so you don't have to own physical machines forever, you don't have to buy them forever, you are paying for this computational power as a service. This is allowing a lot of companies and a lot of teams to access and to be able to use this technology that we knew for a long time, like these algorithms, but these platforms are enabling these companies to be able to use this without, well, even if they are not Google or Apple or one of these big companies. So I think this is the democratization of machine learning, and I think this is why it's becoming such a hot topic nowadays. And specifically, I think that the most common projects we are working with and we are getting requests for are forecasting and classification. And in particular, I think we are going to talk about some examples of forecasting.
Yeah.
Forecasting generally is predicting the future based on data from the past. And with machine learning, you can generate these models based on telemetry from machines or data from your businesses from the past. And you may find correlations between data and relations between the data that may help you predict future behaviors and events. And this is what we have been doing in these projects, so I let you introduce them.
Yeah, thanks. So for example, on CLH is one of the leading international companies in the transport and storage of petroleum products. And they have a challenge because they want to assure that they can provide enough fuel in the schedule that they have to. So they want a model that provides information taking in consideration different variables, such as the weather, the season, or the day of the week, in order to calculate and predict all this fuel providement. So why in this case do you think, Miguel, we decided to use machine learning instead of another technology?
Yeah, so the thing is that in these kind of cases, the amount of telemetry you have to process is huge. Finding correlations between data and from telemetry of machines is not finding relations that are not obvious. It's very challenging and it's not easy at all. So nowadays, if the challenge is complex enough, I think you need to use this kind of tools that allow you to distribute the workload between a lot of in a huge cluster, and I think it's the only way to deal with this kind of high volume environments. And on the other hand, if you want to find correlations that are non-obvious, a human is very hard. It's very hard for a human to find them by himself, analyzing the data. So you need to work with these machine learning algorithms and have them find the correlations by themselves, and then you may also involve some humans in validating the data you are finding, but you really need help from this kind of algorithms if you want to process such amount of data.
That's cool.
Let me also ask a question that we have related to this. Sophia is asking us if we can recommend any cloud platform for this kind of projects. We will see a high level overview of an architecture of a machine learning project, similar to this one that are presented. Again, I refer to the webinar that is going to take place in some days and that will be specifically based on this topic. But I think that probably in all cloud platforms, in the biggest ones, in Amazon, in Google, and in Azure, Microsoft platform, you can achieve the results if you know how to use the tools. I can speak of the experience I have and the tools I have used. And for me, nowadays, the best platform by far, in my opinion, is Databricks. Databricks, you can find it in the Azure cloud. I believe you can find it also in other major clouds. And for me, Databricks, together with MLflow, it's a really great and powerful combo that meets most of the needs in machine learning world.
Yeah, sure. These projects, they've been made in Azure Machine Learning with Databricks. So we are more or less in the same path that you are saying. Another key point that companies ask Plain Concepts to improve is the preventive maintenance. It's not only the need to have the fuel in the time that you need, that also your machinery is working at the same time. So it's important to have the capacity to anticipate the maintenance. And in this case, again, we have developed a machine learning model in order to detect when this maintenance should be performed, and for each one of the guidelines of CLH, and using, again, the telemetry of the different machinery that they are working. Do you think it's a huge improvement in this case of preventive maintenance, use machine learning instead of another technology?
Well, it can be. In the smaller companies, I hope that in CLH, they already had some good maintenance program in place. So probably the improvement was small, but because it's such a huge company and such a big and important business, even a small improvement, like 2%, 5% improvement, can have a lot of profit and can really make a difference. And yeah, the worst case obviously is to fix things when they are broken. But what you try to avoid is you try to fix them or replace them or maintenance them before they break. But then you have to have a balance between how much you are able to use the machines before doing the maintenance. Again, I think that most companies have rough estimates on when to do maintenance based on their experience and their data. And with machine learning, you are able to go the extra mile, basically. So where you may go farther than people can make. So this is what they usually request us. They already have some maintenance program in place. They have telemetry. they gave us some hints on what is the telemetry they think that is relevant for maintenance. And what we do is we process this huge amount of real life data from their machines in order to try to have small adjustments on this maintenance program in order to improve them. And for these companies, these small improvements can make a big difference.
Sure, we are talking about macroeconomy, so 1%, 2% of improvement for sure, it will be a huge improvements for a lot of companies. So let's go deeper to your topic, specialization, that it's data, and let's talk about one of the projects that we've made during this last year. It's a project to a pharma company. Sorry, we cannot say the name because of NDA, but it's one of the biggest companies around the world. They have a challenge. I think that is a challenge that is common in in a lot of companies, that they want to use or to create a repository for all the company data, that it's also be easily to access and also be backup, because they want to allow the use of the data for doing some tests and analysis on the different departments that they got in the company, but without compromising the security and the data itself. So what's been our approach in this project, Miguel?
Yeah. So I bring you here 3 or 4 examples of projects we have done recently regarding big data and also Internet of Things. We will see that they are very relevant nowadays also in the data world, in manufacturing and in general in the industry. And in this case in particular, this pharma company, they have a lot of departments, a lot of teams, they work in a lot of offices and cities. And one of the challenges they had is they were building some data science team and they have some business challenge ahead, okay? But one of the first problems they faced is that they didn't have a central repository with all their company data. Different teams, different departments had data from different parts of the organizations in different technologies, and it was hard. First of all, it was hard to know what data they had available, and then it was hard for them also to access this data, and they had a lot of organizational overhead in getting to talk with the right teams and getting access to the right data. They were also concerned of security, who they were giving access to data, etc. So this is very common when companies start to analyze or they want to build these data science teams, because they were using data before for business purposes, for selling, for producing in pharma, for selling pills, for creating new products. But they didn't have a data science team that were working on analyzing all this data. And when they want to start, they find themselves that they don't have the data organized. So what we did was our first proposal was to create a data lake. This conceptually is a central unified repository with all your data. And we will see how we achieve this, with what technology and how we organize this. But if you go to the previous slide, okay. So this was, I want to give an overview, general overview. So this was our first approach. The idea with the data lake is to centralize this data, be able to classify it and put it at the hand of this team, so they had access to all the data they required, and they had the tools to consume and exploit and explore this data. So once we created this, and we will go over to what technologies and what was our technical proposition, but once they already had a data lake in place and they were ingesting on it all the data they were interested in, the next thing was, okay, now we have a data lake, but we want to allow different data science teams to access parts of this data, not all of it all the time, but only part of it because of different reasons, for security, for data protection, for many reasons. They wanted to be able to grant access to different teams to different data, and they also wanted to give them full access. They didn't want to worry about configuring everything so that no one could break something and all data was totally secure, because you can do this and you must do this. You must configure data security, but the best the best you can do, if possible, is to, by design, avoid that anyone can actually do something, because if at some point you miss some configuration, you don't want this mistake to have consequences, right? So what they challenged us with was, we want to create isolated sandbox of this data lake where we can isolate some part of the data lake data, and these teams can be granted access to these isolated sub-data lakes, if you like, and they can toy with it, they can play with it, they can do whatever they want freely without any consequences, and knowing that whatever they do, they are not going to affect production or other teams, and that eventually we can destroy the whole isolated sub-data lake or data lake replica, and that will be all right. So what we did, or what we proposed, was an engine so that their teams could request by themselves what data access they wanted and during what period, and we will create an isolated environment on the cloud. We will replicate the data they needed and the data they had requested from the main central repository, the main central data lake, and we will grant them access through the usual tools they were using, that in this case were Databricks notebooks. We will grant them access to an instance only for them, only for this team, and they could use it freely as they wanted. So this was a challenge. It was very interesting. It's not the typical thing you get to work with, and we will see in more detail. But if you go first to how we construct this data lake. Yeah, and this is something we will also see in all future projects that we are going to introduce, the IoT projects. A common pattern is that we always put in place some sort of data lake to make sure that the data is safe. We keep a copy of the raw data so that we never lose anything. It is secure, and also it is ready to be extended over time with new data feeds in an easy and secure way. So our data lake approach and our architecture usually is, as you can see in this picture, mainly we have three big lanes, or three big parts of it: the ingestion, the management service, and the consumption. Or management service, you can also call it like processing, and consumption. In the ingestion lane, this will be the first one. We put in place mechanisms and pipelines and data processes to ingest data from the raw sources to the data lake. Raw sources may be the ERP system in the company, they may be IoT devices in the world, they may be external databases, CRM programs, whatever. So we put in place pipelines to ingest data into the data lake. This ingestion may be in some cases in real time, and in other cases they may be delayed, like batch once per day, once per week, or whatever. Then in the second part, in the data management service, this is the processing layer, this is the data lake itself. It consists of a storage repository. In particular, we used to use Azure Data Lake Service, which is an storage specially built for this purpose, for the purpose of constructing data lakes, which means it has unlimited storage capabilities and a high throughput as well, so that it can be consumed and queried by many tools with a high throughput. This allows for big data tools, machine learning, and so on. And in these data lakes, the common pattern that we use is that we have mainly we have 3 layers. The first layer, it's a raw layer. It's where we store information as we receive it without any modification. The goal is that if you modify the information, you may introduce bugs, you may miss information, and you don't want this to happen. You want to preserve a master record, a master copy of this data, so that in the future, if you are interested in a different approach, or if you find a bug, you can always reprocess everything from the raw, and you don't lose anything. So we keep a copy, a read-only copy of this raw data in whatever format we obtain it. We try to avoid any modifications. Then we have another domain layer, if you like, which is a layer where we construct out of the raw data, we construct higher level of entities or higher level of data concepts. So from different sources, we might unify that into a new concept which is enriched. Instead of having just zeros and ones, or we may join the information from the CRM with the information with IoT, and we may enrich it and construct more meaningful information for the business. And then we have a third layer of consumption. In this layer is where this information that is available for data science to explore and for applications to consume, we make it available for other processes. So for instance, say you want to build a new web page or a new web application where you want to show some data that you have stored in your data lake. So depending on the consumption tool or in the client, we will create specific representations of the data on demand for these consumers, because usually you cannot expect web applications or any client to consume data in the same format and in the same persistence technology that you are using for your data lake, right? From a web application, you cannot go out read directly to Azure data lake. It's not efficient. So what we do is that we transform and we put, we set available for these consumers, these applications that are going to consume the data in the format they need, the data they need, in the frequency they need. And this is what we call the consumption layer. And it may be exported to a SQL database, to a NoSQL database, or whatever other technology is required. So this is our main approach. There is a lot of things we could talk, like the data catalog and security and other stuff. But I just wanted to give you a brief insight of what I was talking about when I talk about data lakes, because it's a concept we will see also in the next presentations.
That's really interesting, Miguel. And there is any questions?
I'm going to read now because I was speaking, so I let you go on, and I will take a look.
All right, so let's talk to another hot topic nowadays. It's IoT. You know, we normally got business data, but if we want to improve our models and to enrich our system, we will need more data from our machines. So this is where IoT takes place. So again, for the same company, the pharma company, they challenge us to improve the production of pills. It's one of the main topics that nowadays people are asking, how to improve the production of several products. In that case, it's a product that was made on a centrifugal machine. So where we have three important variables, that was the preheating time, the centrifugal speed, and also the cooling time. So mixing these three variables, they wanted us to give them a better model in order to improve this production. So we create a machine learning model in order to improve this system, and we got a huge improvement, more than 7% of improvement, that you may take in consideration that when we talk on every lot, and normally they produce like more than 100 lots a day, so it's a huge improvement for any industry. Can you go deeper on this case, Miguel, please?
I could, but I'm not going to because I'm going to skip this and leave it to my colleagues who will do this webinar specialized in machine learning. The only I wanted to show is some of the technologies that we are using for this, and again, in our teams, the most common and powerful technology, and the one we have had best results with, is Azure Databricks. It's a cloud platform as a service that it provides you with, among other things, clusters, distributed computed clusters with already configured and ready to use technologies of big data and machine learning, like for instance Spark, Python, also MLflow, many other technologies that are the top notch in the data world nowadays, and they give you access to these clusters on demand, already configured. You don't have to care about anything, just start using them through their APIs and SDKs and get the results, and then you can destroy the clusters whenever you want. And this is really a huge thing. This is what I was talking before about democratization of machine learning. This is changing everything, because now it's so easy to use this technology that is much more affordable and also a lot more agile. It helps you work faster and more efficiently. So it's really nice that these things are happening. And also I want to answer a question of Ignacio Alberto. He's asking if we think that we will live a new industrial revolution around the technologies and manufacturing projects. Well, Ignacio, I would be interested in knowing your opinion or the opinion of our audience. I think we are already living a revolution, an industry revolution around these technologies. Maybe we are in the beginning, and I'm sure that in the near future, in the next 3, 5, 10 years, this is going to be more and more relevant, and companies will be more and more dependent on this. So I definitely think this is going to be a huge thing, but I'm interested in knowing your opinion. Also, all of this may change if we find the general purpose artificial intelligence. Then everything may change, and maybe it will destroy the world. Who knows?
Sure. I think we have to move forward a little bit faster because we are ending our time here. So another case is a case that was presented by a huge company that provides service offices, co-working. They build offices around the world. They want to create a cross-company system that concentrates all the data from different sensors. They've got more than 20,000 buildings in the world. So it's a huge platform. They want to use this platform to enrich all their systems, and we are nowadays developing one of the first softwares that get information from this platform. Can you do a brief overview of these two projects, please?
I will try to be brief this time.
Yeah.
So this is a typical IoT project. This client, they contacted us and they already had in place IoT technology, and they were already trying to use it, but they were struggling because with their implementation they had a delay of up to 2-3 hours between the time that things happen in real world and when they got the information through their platform. So imagine that you have a fire alarm in your building, and you have a delay of 3 hours before you notice that the fire alarm rang. This is obviously a disaster, and it wasn't usable at all, among other troubles they had. So within a month, we were able to build from scratch a real-time IoT platform. You will see here data lake, as we were talking before, and basically we are ingesting data from internal sources that they already had, like the CRM, ERP, booking system, etc., and also from an IoT provider. In this case, is the Things Network. They work with LoRa network technology. It's a common IoT technology, and we are ingesting the data in real time from the devices. Devices basically are smart door locks. So when you open a door, you are notified of which door was open and by whom, and also presence detectors in rooms and in the building that tells you in which rooms there is people occupying these rooms. So with all this data and joining it to also with the booking system and with the other data sources they had, we are now able to get insights within 5 minutes. So if you open a door or if you go into a room, within 5 minutes, we can already have business insights, and we can take actions. And this has had huge implications because, for instance, they rent their spaces to other customers, and they were interested in knowing when someone was using these spaces without booking it in all the offices they have around the world. So within a month, we already have reports that are suggesting that they have a revenue leakage that may amount for millions per year. So they are very interested in this project, and we are actively developing it to produce more insights. For instance, if you go to the previous slide, you will see one of the screenshots of one Power BI report where we can see these real-time events and business insights happening. It's not just the raw data, it's insights out of this data where we have crossed different sources and produce specific insights.
Also in the same company, and one of the business cases that provides or that uses this data from this platform was the check-in process using IoT. As you may know, it's one of the huge problems when you reach into a company that you have to make the check-in. In the check-in counter, it's something that it's really old school. It's something that depends on the people that they are working to make it faster or really slow, that it's normally what happens. And we are developing a new platform that uses this data from IoT platform in order to make it the check-in process faster, easy, also to set up a guidance to get into the room where you have the meeting or where you have your space provided, and also to automatically notify the customer of your community associate that you are in the building.
Yeah.
This is the solution that we have applied. Yeah.
So we have started by this use case in particular, speeding up the checking. For them, this is very important to speed the attention to their customers, and also to enhance it, because as of now, you do a check-in, but they can do a lot more things right when you arrive to a building, and they can provide you with a lot more value. So we have started with check-in, but they have plans to also work with the IoT platform that we built before and that we spoke before about, and know things like who is in each room, and also know the Wi-Fi to between your current location to the room you want to go, have a visual guide of how to reach this place, and also control the accesses so that you get automatically access to through all the doors and rooms you have to go through to this place. So they are very interested in these kind of things. And again, the technology stack is very similar. In this case, we are not using big data. We are only using Azure functions for real-time processing stuff. We are creating APIs in Azure ecosystem with .NET technologies, with .NET Core, and we are also developing a web application that will be mobile-friendly for them to display on these tablets on the reception of their buildings. We are also using, as we saw previously, the screenshot we saw before that was showing information, the report or the dashboard you were seeing. It's a Power BI report, but it's a cloud-based Power BI report. So they are not working anymore with. They don't have to maintain installation of the Power BI. They can just pay per account, and we are also using Azure Power BI Embedded, which allows you to display and to use Power BI reports inside a web application, and without requiring your users, the users of your web application, to have Power BI licenses. You can use them anonymously. So with all these cloud-based technologies, it really allows and makes it much easier for us to build new solutions faster and cheaper. We are very impressed by this kind of technologies.
That's cool. That's a screenshot of the platform. And the last business case that we want to show you, it's an IoT project that in the future I think will be one of the hot spots of plain concepts IoT projects, but nowadays we have to explain in what we are working. But in the future they want to use IoT to improve their furniture. Our customer is a furniture manufacturer that provides high-class furniture to companies. They work with big companies like BMW, Microsoft, and all these huge companies. And in the future they want to use sensors to improve the posture, suggest rest times, and also locate people inside their offices. But what they ask nowadays to do is they want to track the office space utilization, because they want to provide a better insights of the use of the spaces in order to provide or to optimize the layout of their offices. Because if they put 6 chairs in a space and they are only using 3 and all the time, so they can use these chairs in another place, or maybe this room is overplayed. So what we are working with them, Miguel?
Yeah. So this is a very interesting case as well, because this company, originally they were manufacturers or furnishing material, as you said, chairs, tables, and so on. And technology has enabled them to discover new business opportunities that they didn't work with before. So for example, not only now they are selling this furniture, but they noticed that they could also provide additional value to their customers by helping them design the distribution and the layout of their offices. Because they were experts in office furniture, they had a lot of knowledge already on how to best distribute and create an office. So they started offering these consultancy services to help their customers design and provision their new offices. And at some point they thought that instead of just relying on personal experience and on-site monitoring, going on site and seeing how people are using the spaces, they could also get advantage of introducing IoT, Internet of Things devices into their offices in order to get more information of how spaces were being used, not only how you think they are used, but how actually they are used, and helping them or suggesting them how to improve their efficiency and their work environment with the use of this technology. So in this case, they are using both device providers, IoT platforms, which provide you already with out-of-the-box devices and a platform through which you can extract all the telemetry from these devices. And they also wanted to work with custom devices that they could introduce into the furniture, as you were saying before. So we had the challenge to build a platform that would work both with integrated with other providers like LoRa Network, we were talking before, the Think Industries, Coworker, this kind of providers, but also with their own devices. So we built a real-time and provider-agnostic platform that ingests data again into a data lake in real time from their custom devices and their external providers. We ingest them into a data lake. We create a unified view of this IoT data regardless of what the source it's coming. And then we have Azure Databricks jobs running in real time, 24/7, processing this data and extracting insights and exporting it into a SQL database. Then we also have a web application which is using again Azure Power BI embedded to display reports like this one, where you can see the usage of a certain office space. So here they can navigate the different buildings they are working with and the different floors, and they can filter by a lot of tags. They can tag their devices depending on their type, where they are placed, and other metrics as well. And here you have a huge capability of filtering depending on what you are interested, and both by date, by the tags, and you get a number of KPIs and data out of this. Like you can see here, you can know what is the percentage of utilization of these spaces, how many seats are vacant. You can see the top picks and also the average. So they are getting a lot of information, and with this, they are helping their customers to improve the efficiency of their offices. So it's a very interesting case of how technology allowed them to not pivot, because they are still producing and the core is producing this furniture, but extend their value proposition to their customers with this kind of insights.
Well, that's great. I think that we are completely out of time. If there's any question, we will answer through email to the people who ask it. And thank you very much for your time. Hope you have enjoyed this session. And if you need any further information, if you want anything about us, please contact us through our website or through LinkedIn or whenever you want to find us. Thank you very much, and have a nice afternoon and clean your hands.
Thank you very much. See you in the cloud.
Bye.
Bye.